What's up, guys? Matt here with OddsJam, and I got two sharp college football plays for you guys to lock in for this weekend, specifically Saturday. Count it, two plays found using OddsJam, the positive expected value page where you can find betting opportunities, where you can get an edge over the sports books that you are placing the bet on. The first one I have up here for a full unit is the over 64 points in Oklahoma at Nebraska. Full unit bet on this one that has been placed. The next one, Notre Dame minus 9.5 against Cal. Half unit play for me here, putting $45 on it. That bet has been placed. Cool, locked in. So, of course, like I mentioned, I found both of these plays using OddsJam, using the positive expected value software. Pretty cool filtering specifically for college football. So I knew I wanted to bet some college football. So I did exactly what I needed to do and filtered specifically for it. So let me start with the second play because that is my favorite one. The second play here is Nebraska versus Oklahoma, this over 64. So number one, I mentioned that it is a mathematically profitable bet. This bet has a profit margin that we can calculate. Of course, this one is a little bit lower at 0.19%, but that doesn't mean that it is a bad bet. It doesn't mean that it should be avoided. Even these lower EV percents here can be valuable, but this can be considered your percent edge over the sports books, your mathematical profit margin, your percent EV, however you want to look at it is what you can view this 0.19% as. So to talk about the math behind it first, so the Novig odds price this at minus 110.5. Essentially, we got it at minus 110. So that small gap there is where your positive expected value comes from. But the reason why I like this bet so much is because of line shopping. So if you open the play, it pulls up the odds for this specific play. So we see $3 price the over 64. But if you open this up in a new tab, view the event page, it pulls up where every sportsbook is pricing this total at. So not just the odds themselves, but this holistic betting market, giving you the entire scope of what these sportsbooks are pricing it at. And what we can see is just a ridiculous value on this over 64 at minus 110 on WynnBet. So as I mentioned, WynnBet prices this over 64 at minus 110. The other book that has pricing for this total is BetRivers at minus 113. And then, of course, there is the OddsJam line pulled from Pinnacle Sportsbook, which is the sharpest line in the world, prices this at minus 126. But what's more important is we see literally every other book that is pricing odds for this play price this total above 64, except for BetRivers. BetMGM has it at 64.5. PointsBet has it at 65, juicing it towards the over, basically saying they think that the more likely scenario is that this total goes over 65. Caesars, DraftKings, and Pinnacle have this as well at 65. FanDuel has it at 65.5. And BetOnline, another sharp sportsbook, has this at 66. They are favoring the over at 66. So basically, BetOnline is saying, we think this total should be priced at 66. And we think that the more likely scenario is that this total is going over. So we're going to make it more expensive to buy the over. We're going to make it at minus 115, whereas the under is less expensive at minus 105. It's just insane looking at the types of value you can get when you are line shopping using OddsJam to find these mathematical betting opportunities. Not only is it positive EV just when you compare the odds themselves for pricing it over 64, but it's also positive EV in beating the closing line where you look at just where every other sportsbook is pricing this total at. So I love this one. I love this over 64 in this game. As I mentioned, I already put a unit on it. This is minus 110 on WynnBet for those of you locking this in at home. Put a full unit on it. I think it's a really sharp play. The next one that I like is in the Notre Dame versus California game. So the positive EV play that you see on the screen here is actually at 10.5 at plus 110 odds. I actually liked it a little bit safer. I got it at 9.5 at minus 110 as opposed to 10.5 at plus 110. But you can understand my logic why. Number two, getting this total, or the spread, I should say, under 10 where you are backing the favorite to cover the spread is really valuable because obviously point totals in football, 3 points for a field goal, 7 points for a touchdown. If they win by a touchdown plus a field goal, they would have covered this bet at minus 9.5. They would not have covered it at minus 10.5, right? That makes sense. So as we can see here, every other book, similar to the last play, prices this spread at either 10 or 10.5, except for FoxBet. PointsBet is the only other book giving you odds for minus 9.5, but this is an alternate total. They're saying that we think the more likely scenario is that it goes over, that Notre Dame covers this 9.5 spread, so they have it juiced at minus 125. OddsJam line, same thing, juicing Notre Dame to cover 9.5 at minus 118, with the other side at minus 101. And you see the huge difference in odds when you go from 9.5 to 10. It goes all the way from minus 118 to minus 108, no longer favoring Notre Dame at this number. That's why I decided to get it at a half point below, getting it at 9.5. Bet Online also prices this at 10, another sharp book. Bet Rivers prices this at 10, favoring Notre Dame, thinking that Notre Dame is more likely to cover the 10-point spread. And then the other books have it at about even money, as does WynnBet at Cal plus 10.5. So pretty big value here, getting this Notre Dame to cover the 9.5-point spread. I know Notre Dame is 0-2, had an awful loss last week to Marshall, but I still like them to cover the spread in this one. And that's exactly what the math is telling me as well. So I locked this one in. Again, I put a half unit on this one. I put about 45 on Notre Dame to cover the spread. So now let me just add both of these plays to my bet tracker. So this is the play I put a unit on. It's click save. This is the play I put half a unit on. Click save there. And we are good to go. So adding these to my bet tracker, tracking your bets is really important. If I go to my dashboard, you'll see that all this information from my betting history comes from adding it to my bet tracker. So as you can see, I had a rough week 1 of NFL / week 2 of college football. This negative profit is actually all from college football. NFL, I did pretty good, mostly broke even, but was terrible with my college football picks. Those of you in the Discord, I apologize for that. I went undefeated on my NFL picks, but I lost units with my NCAA ones. Hopefully, things will turn it around this week. But all this information you see comes from the bet tracker. It's important to see the total profit, 12.8K, the ROI, 4%, knowing that for every downswing, there is an equal and greater upswing. So that leads me to believe that this week is going to be a good one for me. So like I said, 2 bets, recommend tailing both of them, over 64 in Oklahoma at Nebraska, and Notre Dame minus 9.5 at minus 110. And those are it. Those are going to be my 2 betting picks. So if you're tailing, let me know. Love to hear it. Other than that, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the OddsJam YouTube channel. But that's it. So I appreciate you guys watching, and have a good one.